High on Life deleted this item, PUBG almost got sued, but out of all things removed in video games, WWE takes the prize. It's pretty common for a celebrity to get in trouble and then they disappear. When this happened to Vince McMahon, 2K24 axed him from all WWE cutscenes, but not in the way you would think. Instead of changing the scene or just editing him out, they straight up blurred him. Now Tekken is always adding insane characters, but what happens when they're forced to remove one? Roger is a kangaroo who has appeared across the franchise, and when it came to the 7th game, we got to play as Roger Jr. Little guys even got boxing gloves, but this is a fighting game, and beating up animals didn't sit well when the activists got involved. They caused such an uproar that the devs had to delete Roger, who has been in the game for over 20 years. Not the only character with a little controversy, because Apex almost got sued for stealing a skin. Let me explain. During their anime-themed event in 2022, characters got new looks based on iconic outfits from shows like My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball, and One Piece. Only problem is, not a single one of these were official. They got away with them looking similar until Octane's Luffy skin was almost identical. Respawn was obviously concerned about a lawsuit, so they immediately deleted the Straw Hat, turning him into a cowboy. At least we knew they were trying to make their own Luffy, unlike when PUBG straight up stole an entire brand. If you play the game, you'll know the energy drinks look like this. Pretty standard, right? Well, if you used one before 2018, they look completely different, with a red, blue, and silver design and the name Hot Bull. No surprise they changed it. Sometimes the devs do it to themselves, like Naughty Dog's Fat Joke. In each of the Uncharted games, you can unlock donut versions of characters like Drake, Talbot, and Lazarevich. Outside of extreme obesity, they would have a deeper voice, but the devs would later remove this Easter egg. They just weren't comfortable with the joke anymore, but that's not what happened in High on Life. Deleting skins is one thing, but what about the main character? Kenny is the iconic gun who talks to you throughout the game, but after being voiced by Justin Roiland, Squanch Games had a problem. He was fired from Rick and Morty and High on Life, leaving fans wondering about the upcoming DLC. A lot of us just assumed Kenny will be recast, only to find out they scrapped him entirely, replacing him with a new character, Harper.
And they lost one of their guns. Is that enough? Can I do the weather now? Jesus!
Not the only content that got wiped out, because nobody got to see the hidden Minecraft Easter egg in Fable 3. There are 6 demon doors throughout the game, but a dev uploaded footage of a 7th that had never been seen. This time it led to a giant blocky area with destructible rocks and trees, clearly inspired by Minecraft. You would think it got removed because of copyright issues, but it turns out that Mojang approved of the addition, and instead, Fable decided to cut it. A lot of players would have loved this, but nobody wants commercials in their games. Wipeout HD is a futuristic racer, but the devs ruined it with one single update. Sony made a deal with Double Fusion to integrate ads into their games. Sure, it's pretty scummy, but at least you could ignore them, right? Turns out the ads intentionally made the loading screens twice as long, just so you'd be forced to watch the whole thing. Players were so furious about this that the devs reverted it instantly. Sometimes a feature doesn't even make it, like Fallout's Forbidden Creature. In New Vegas, there are a ton of monsters that attack you, but players digging through the files discovered one that was never released. Gojira was an unused enemy that looked just like the normal gecko, but was 3 times the size. This guy was pretty much unstoppable with over 8,000 health, so it makes sense why he never made it to the game. In fact, Seth MacCaughey told everyone that it was something he made just for fun to terrorize Camp McCarran during development. Not the biggest mistake you can make before a launch though, that award goes to Fire Emblem. Byleth's character is usually voiced by Chris Niosi, until one day his name was wiped from the credits. Turns out he actually broke his NDA by bragging to friends about the role before it was announced, and Nintendo took it personally. Not only was his credit removed, but they straight up recast the voice actor as punishment. This included re-recording everything, even though the game had been out for 2 years. One innocent feature in Madden 23 suddenly turned dark after a real-life accident. The game has a bunch of celebration emotes. When you score a touchdown, you can dance or even use your player's signature move. One of these was pretending to do CPR on someone, which was pretty funny at the time until one day it actually happened. Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field and had to be given CPR for 9 minutes. Afterwards, no one could see the celebration in the same light again, so EA made the quick decision to remove it. It's just as quickly as Call of Duty Warzone deleting 2 YouTubers. Both Nick Merckx and Tim the Tapman got their own characters in game, something their fans loved. All it took was some controversial tweets and the devs were not happy. Nick's bundle was removed from the shop, and not long after, Tim requested they do the same to his. They haven't been sold since, and it seems the devs are now avoiding any collaborations with content creators because of it. I mean, hey, at least they didn't get the entire game banned. Wolfenstein 2 obviously covers some sensitive topics from the Second World War, so when it released in Germany, they were forced to delete half the game. Flags, symbols, dialogue all had to be wiped out or altered. But one of the craziest changes has got to be the dictator. To make sure he was unidentifiable, apparently all they had to do was remove his mustache. And one time a game had to delete someone for just talking too much. Fallout New Vegas features a lot of characters and stories to uncover, but one of them never made the final cut. Ulysses was meant to be a companion, but had so much dialogue that he simply wouldn't fit on the game's disc. The devs had no choice but to cut him and reuse him later on as a villain in a future DLC, although it doesn't mean he talked any less.
If you believe in something enough, you must be willing to let it burn, lest it claim you.
And it turns out you can't even trust the NPCs anymore because some of them commit fraud. Sea of Stars decided to add a popular creator to the game by giving him his own NPC. He was based on Gerard the Completionist, and it all went smoothly until rumors broke out that funds from his charity stream didn't go to the Foundation. While nothing was ever concrete, the devs wanted to keep the game feeling positive and made the decision to cut him from the game entirely. Metal Gear Solid has a bunch of references to the famous PT horror game, but one of the best ones was completely scrapped. Basically, there's decoy grenades, which deploy an inflatable big boss to distract enemies. But before the game released, it was actually Lisa, the same ghost from PT. It was at the Tokyo Game Show in 2014 and was the only time we ever saw it, with the reference never making it into the final version. Probably because Kojima got cut from the team. And you probably wouldn't believe there was a time Fortnite cut out its most famous character. Jonesy is pretty iconic. When Epic dropped the imposters mode, he was originally planned to be the mascot. It was called a ripoff of Among Us with meetings and tasks, but the biggest giveaway was the suits. Each crewmate was going to be Jones dressed in different colored outfits, just like the original game, but Fortnite realized that this was maybe pushing it. So they deleted them and just let you wear your current skin instead. At least they didn't make you pay for it, unlike GTA's greediest update. There are tons of vehicles in the game that players can unlock for free through progression until one day Rockstar decided they had had enough. Over 180 cars and bikes were suddenly put behind a paywall, requiring players to sign up to a subscription service in order to access them. Thankfully, anyone who already unlocked the vehicles got to keep them, but anyone new was forced to pay up. Yikes. Someone else who refused to pay was the developers of GoldenEye. They originally planned to add an all bonds mode, giving us suits from each of the movies. It even had the actors Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, which they soon realized would cause legal issues for using their likeness without permission. Instead of paying for the license, they were scrapped entirely. Still not as crazy as the mission in MW2 that had to be removed. Now, Call of Duty's already a mature game, but it was taken one step further and no Russian. Due to how controversial this mission was, the entire scene was banned from all versions published in Russia, with other countries forcing them to alter the mission entirely. Another change fans aren't happy with is in Rocket League. Since Epic took over, there has been some crazy decisions like going free to play, but one of the biggest has got to be removing trading. It was a key part of the game for the community, with rare items being sold to others in exchange for real money. Obviously, this is never supported by the devs, but some items are selling for thousands of dollars. And now, the trading feature has been removed, and that's because of Fortnite. With cars now transferring over, it's been turned into a new system-based trade. There's no more loot boxes or rare items, and if you want to trade in duplicates, you'll just get a random item for every 5 you turn in. It's better than nothing, but fans are not happy about this one. And there was no choice of fixing a mode in Valorant that broke the game. Replication made it so that both teams were all the same agent with shorter rounds. Pretty normal, but there is one thing the devs didn't account for: ultimates. Turns out everyone having the same abilities is not just chaos, but it caused the whole match to fall apart due to lag.
Where am I? What the fuck?
It almost lasted as long as Minecraft's Forgotten Instrument. You could get Goat Horn since the Caves and Cliffs update, letting you play different sounds, but there was actually an upgraded version. The Copper Horn let you play noises depending on which direction you were looking, creating up to 10 unique sounds. It was a pretty strange item, and apparently Mojang thought so too, removing it because it didn't live up to the design goals. Not the only rethought decision, because the Rust devs changed the genre of the entire game. Originally, it was a zombie survival, letting players fight not just each other, but also undead creatures. Eventually, it became so popular that people didn't even care about the zombies anymore. And so one day the devs finally caved in. We did it. The longer we keep zombies in, the more complaints we get about removing them. We are no longer a zombie survival game. But Nintendo did the opposite of what fans wanted. Players have always requested a co-op mode for Super Mario 64 and never got one. But it only got worse when we found out it actually existed. They originally planned to let you play with your friend as the two brothers, but for some reason, it was never finished. And fans also had their happiness crushed when a Vtuber Easter egg was removed after just 72 hours. Peroni is a popular streamer who accidentally created the Doog meme when playing through the first game. It caught on so much that the devs added it as a reference in Eternal. Great Easter egg, but was found almost instantly by players and then removed. And the devs of Spider-Man 2 forgot to remove a whole location. Turns out that Rhino was originally planned to be a villain, but you won't believe how players discovered it. By glitching out of the bounds, you could swing all the way under the map to a hidden sewer that is never used in the game. Pretty detailed for a scrapped area, featuring Kraven's throne, a bunch of trophies on the wall, and most surprising of all, Rhino's head. Now, it doesn't answer whether he's alive or dead, so there is still hope. That's still not as unexplainable as Activision deleting half of their game. Players were insanely hyped when Modern Warfare 2 was getting a remaster, happy to finally relive the glory days, only for it to be one of the biggest letdowns. It looked and played great, but they only featured the campaign with no multiplayer. How can you make a remaster and not include the most popular part? If you played GTA 5, you probably already know about the iconic character switching, but this wasn't the first time Rockstar wanted to use this. They had this idea nearly a decade earlier with San Andreas. It would have let you swap between more than just CJ, so who knows what other characters there were. Possibly one of the saddest removals is Kojima being wiped from Metal Gear Solid. We all know the story of him being forced to leave the company over creative differences, but the worst part was when they deleted him from the game too. The cover art originally looked like this, but after he was fired, they straight up removed his name, discrediting all of his work. Another change that fans took personally is Fortnite's insane decision. We've all seen how it's evolved since the beginning, but recently Epic made a change that nobody asked for, removing skin rarities after 7 years. They're one of the most recognizable parts of the game and became so popular that others adopted the system and now they've abandoned it. This has sparked heated discussions among fans, with a lot of them hating how the locker is ugly and are worried skin prices will rise with no tags to show their value. Click on screen to watch part 1 of this video. It's been Tommy, and keep it here on T5G.